He joins us on Wednesdays, the author of the California Playbook, which is Politico's great clearinghouse for everything California, politics and beyond. He's Jeremy B. White, everybody. Hi, Jeremy B. White. And Jeremy is...
hey, guys.
Yeah.
Hey.
Jeremy, this is your Super Bowl season with so much going on, and you may sort of have to Sherpa us through some of what's going on in California in terms of critical races that might be overlooked. I can hit on a couple of high-profile ones. Before I get to that, though, you had something in the Playbook that I really enjoyed. That's just today. And I was mentioning before, you can get the California Playbook from Politico. Just Google it and, subscribe. It'll hit your inbox, and you can get, regular reports on what's going on. But it was about the windfall profit tax that Newsom talks about potentially levying or being a champion of levying on oil companies. Now, it's felt to me like lip service, and you sort of hint at that in the Playbook as well.
We're still waiting for details of what this windfall oil profits tax is going to look like. The governor has been calling for it for a while now. He wants the legislature to come back in December to tackle it. But my conversations in the legislature have basically boiled down to, let's see what it looks like. This is a fairly untested idea. It's something that has sort of caught on somewhat in Europe, but it's pretty early to know the returns. There are a lot of questions about how it would be structured, how it would return money to people, whether people would see significant financial relief, and above all that, whether the votes are there in the legislature to do this. A two-thirds vote is never an easy task, especially when you have a brand new legislature in place. So I think there are a lot of questions still about the governor's proposal here.
Well, that's why it felt like it might be virtue signaling on the part of Newsom. It just seemed as though, as you say, short or no details, short on details or really no details. And then, as you say, how would it be configured and legislatively? How do you expect to get it through? So you have to build coalitions that may not be there. So, yeah, it felt like a bit of Newsom virtue signaling. It's not beyond him to do that, right?
I think the timing here is interesting. The governor has been out there hammering this and calling for an effort to rein in oil companies at the height of campaign season, when high gas prices are obviously a huge issue for voters. But lawmakers aren't going to come back and vote on it until after the election, which means that some of those members in tough races are not going to have to be asked to vote on a new tax, even if the governor is presenting it as a tax that benefits people when it comes to gas prices. So, to a certain extent, he's out there showing like Democrats care and we're taking on these oil companies. We're not going to see results until after the election. And I think also, depending where gas prices are in December and also how Democrats do in this election, that's going to affect how this plays out.
The last thing, and then I will move on. What I liked in the Playbook is that you detailed the amount of money. It's sort of, in this time of scarcity when it comes to the oil supply, to see $2.8 billion profit for stockholders in Valero Corporation alone. That's just, one oil company. You kind of detail the profits of 500% higher than the same period last year. And, this is at a time when you're paying so much at the pump. There seems to be, with record profits or, insanely high profits, they're allowed to make a profit, but you just wonder how the arithmetic is all getting squared, which is why the Newsom, I would call it virtue signaling, or you could just say opening of the discussion about this seems so right on. I want to get to the mayoral election in Los Angeles. That's a wild one. Yeah, this maybe you can bring us all up to speed, but let me just offer this. This guy, Caruso, who is running against Bass in Los Angeles, she's the Democrat, he's the Republican. He's a super wealthy guy, right? And he wasn't even really on the map. His recognition was pretty low when this whole thing began. Well, he's carpet bombed the air media with spots, with commercials, and now he is running neck and neck with Bass for being the next mayor of L.A.
I should point out that Rick Caruso is in fact a Democrat, although that's a fairly recent development. He was no party preference, and before that he was a Republican. Which is something that obviously has created some suspicion of him. But this is a fraught moment for LA. All the polling shows folks are frustrated and concerned about homelessness, crime, and of course some of the corruption scandals we've seen have created even more disillusionment. And so I think Karen Bass, longtime Democratic representative, she has the endorsements of Democrats from President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris on down, has been seen as sort of the prohibitive favorite for a long time. But Rick Caruso has spent a lot of money. He's fairly wealthy. He's spending tens of millions of dollars to put out a message which is essentially, the establishment has failed. Why go with the status quo when you could go with an outsider? Now, it's not as if he has been a total outsider. He's somebody who's very much been sort of involved in the civic life of LA and the economic life for sure. But I think the main factors here are really whether his money, putting that message in front of voters of the establishment has failed you, is going to be enough to get sort of voters feeling that malaise to try something different.
I mean, Jeremy, it's true that kind of I'm not like them, I'm going to come in and really make a difference in this city attitude has carried races before without a lot of specific solutions.
That's right. And, I think that, again, this is just an election that's happening at a tumultuous time in Los Angeles. You have the former mayor, Antonio Villaraigosa, saying he's never seen the city so sort of adrift and uncertain of its direction. And so, of course, if you listen to Karen Bass and her supporters, they'll say, here's somebody who deeply understands this city and has the capacity and the experience to do something about it. The message from Caruso and co. is, the people you've been electing have failed you, essentially. So why go with another elected official?
I can't argue with the people you've elected have failed you. It's a very tough argument to knock down. That said, I'd suggest it's not the people always that fail us. It's the system that fails us. But that may be for another time. And that can also feed the argument, well, I'm not from the system and I'm ready to shake up the system thing. I want to ask you quickly in our last minute or two, talking to Jeremy B. White from California's Politico, California Playbook. Jeremy, there are races in California outside the big cities that are key, right? I mean, there are congressional seats. The state's been redrawn. Where should we keep an eye to see what's going to happen for this midterm election in California?
Wow, how much time do you have? Yes,
actually.
To your point, some of the most contested House races and state legislature races, for that matter, are in more populous places like LA County and Orange County, but we're also seeing some fiercely contested races in those big Central Valley districts in the sort of agricultural heartland of the state. And I think this is a year in which you could see quite a few seats change hands. There are some open seats as well in which Democrats and Republicans are vying for essentially a newly drawn seat. And so there have been millions and millions of dollars spent already to swing this. And it's partially because while Democrats in the state legislature are going to maintain that 2/3 supermajority, it's really a question of how big it is. In the House, it's obviously a fierce battle for control of the House of Representatives. And there's maybe 8 races in California that are legitimately contested, and that will help determine who.
Just to be clear, you dropped out a little bit. There are eight seats that are going to be legitimately contested, is what you were saying, isn't it?
I think that's right. I would have to count in my head, but certainly.
Something on the order of 8. Yeah. Okay, but I mean, but it's that's a significant number. I mean, that's not nothing. I think timing is so much a part of things in California.
Democratic as California is.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
exactly. The political consistency of the state. Yeah. Love that you spent a couple of minutes with us. Thank you so much. You can find Politico's California Playbook. You can find it on the Politico website, but you can also just Google it. I mean, just Google California Playbook. Jeremy B. White. You can find him also on Twitter as well. As I say, you're so lovely to spend time with us every week. Thank you. Jeremy B. White, everybody.
Pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. Yep.